Hey, what's going on? It's Kyle Henderson along with Tony Tsoukalis, Trey Yanity. You could see us there on the sideline. We're talking Monday Night Quarterback, and thank you very much for joining us from wherever you're watching. We'll also turn this into a podcast. We're really trying to build up our podcast, so go to Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Spotify, Apple, and definitely look for Bama Insider, the podcast, and you guys can listen to us right here, wherever you get your podcast. But thank you very much for being a subscriber on BamaInsider.com. Actually, we almost have 40,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is pretty unbelievable. Yeah. So hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We appreciate you guys supporting us. We got Tony, who was just in Knoxville, Tennessee at the game. We got Trey Yanity, who is back with me smoking cigars. First off, Tony, I mean, the play of Mac Jones has been fantastic. This is Monday Night Quarterback. This is what we do. Mick Gillespie will be with us next time. He's still driving back from Knoxville. You know Mick. So shout out, Mick. We got love for you, and we'll catch up with you next time. Tony, let's talk about Mac Jones. I mean, if anybody wondered who Mac Jones was going into this season, I mean, look at this overall production.
Yeah, I mean, this is about as much as you can ask for a quarterback. He would have had 4 straight 400-yard games, but Alabama didn't want to risk injury, so they took him out. And you needed to get Bryce Young some extra reps at the end of the game. But he's basically thrown 4 perfect games, in my opinion. The last 4 games, you look at that 78.8 completion percentage is just that is stupid good. 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The efficiency rating is off the chart as well. He really hasn't missed a beat this season, and Alabama is playing better on offense with him than they did with Tua Tagovailoa, which just floors me because, I mean, that's no knock on Tua. I think just Mac has just found a way to even take this offense up another level.
Yeah, I mean, how crazy is that to think that we're having a conversation? Because, there was a time, even in July, August, where we didn't know that Mac was going to be the full-time starter. I mean, Bryce Young getting some work in, but, Mac Jones on Saturday, every Saturday so far, this has been unbelievable. And if you think about it, this was a Saturday where from play number 1, he had maybe his most deadly tool on offense removed. So, him to just come out there, work with a new talent in Slade Bolden on the field, and just dominate. This has been on brand all season. Heisman worthy so far. We'll have that conversation in a little bit, but
we're going. Don't spill the beans.
It's a little teaser here.
Continues to hit the deep ball too, man. I looked at his Pro Football breakdown and the over 20-yard passes. He had 3 of them, and he completed 2 out of 3. So I looked and I was like, well, what was the incomplete pass? It was that long bomb at Hail Mary at the end of the second half, which I don't even think should count. But that was the only deep ball that he missed on against Tennessee. So he's hitting 2 more 45-yarders to John Mechie, who seems to be a deep ball machine himself. I mean, this guy, it's not even just like he's throwing these like little pop passes or screen passes. He's balling it out, and he's still completing everything he throws. So
we're here with Tony Tsoukalis and Trey Yanity, Mick Gillespie on assignment, as he likes to say. And he'll be back, next time for Monday Night Quarterback. He does a lot of work for us behind the scenes. My name is Kyle Henderson at Bama Insider. We're talking Monday Night Quarterback. Hey, guys, we also had an opportunity to see another quarterback, and that was this young man. We had a chance to see Bryce Young. And Bryce Young got in about the 10-minute mark of the fourth quarter. But before we dive into Bryce Young, and I'm gonna do something special for Bryce here coming up. But all super chats tonight go to. Are you good on your audio, Trey?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Oh, definitely.
All super chats tonight go to Trey and Tony Tsoukalis. All right. So you guys want to hook up the staff? Now is the perfect time. They do a great job for us behind the scenes. So they are getting the tips tonight. Hit the super chat. That's a $sign at the chat, and we'll definitely hook up the staff with super chats. Thank you very much. As we look to another quarterback, we saw Bryce Young step onto the field. Tony, your observations. I mean, he only threw 5 passes, but 3 of them were for completions. Your take on Bryce Young, Alabama's freshman, who got a little bit more playing time against Tennessee.
Yeah, and one of them was dropped by Slade Bolden in the end zone, which would have been his first touchdown. He fired that ball into Slade, so maybe give Slade a little bit of a break there. But that would have been nice for the old stat sheet to have 4 or 5 with an extra touchdown in there. Look, I think we all know that Bryce Young is the real deal at quarterback, and if it wouldn't be for Mac Jones, I think he could be it could be a starting quarterback at most SEC schools. I mean, Alabama's truly blessed at the quarterback position. I fully expect Bryce Young to be a difference maker moving forward, maybe next year. I mean, heck, I think that Mac, look at some of these mock drafts, Kyle. He's getting projected to go in the first round in the top 20 picks. Maybe pump the brakes on that right now, but Mac could be gone next year, and it could be Bryce behind center. And I don't think there's going to be anything wrong with that. I think we might be talking about how Bryce Young takes it up another level. I don't know if it gets to a point where I'm not sure if there's any more levels you can take it up, but I think Bryce Young has a really bright future for Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, this is a kid that still isn't too far removed from high school. I think that year of him being able to grow and just get bigger, we still, see at times, I think, a little bit of that immaturity. Only a few snaps, obviously, into this season for Bryce Young. But I think just growing and getting more comfortable with playing at this level is going to be huge for him. And that's what this year is about. That's why it's so big that Mac Jones is playing the way he is, not only for Mac Jones, but for Bryce Young to, mentor him and make him feel more comfortable, not as pressured, not as stressed to, have to fight for that role in year number one and, maybe have to fight to win every game for his team in year number one. Great to see him. I think his QBR ended up in the 80s in this game on Saturday. Some really nice throws, just a big day all the way around. If the Jaylen Waddle injury doesn't happen, I think you walk away from this game feeling great all the way around. And like you said, it would have been sweet to see the touchdown there for Slade Bolden and Bryce Young, but a lot to build off on here.
Yeah, we're talking Monday Night Quarterback right here on Bama Insider. Please hit the thumbs up button, like and subscribe. And remember, find us on podcast. Mick Gillespie will be with us next time to talk more Alabama Crimson Tide football. We do this every single Monday night. Tomorrow night, we'll talk recruiting with Andrew Bone. And then on Wednesday, I'll take your calls and we'll talk Alabama versus Mississippi State. We heard Mike Leach's press conference today. I was around for that. Stuck around. It was supposed to start at 2 p.m. and didn't start till 2:45. And I was expecting Mike Leach to come in and, have this like overwhelming person. And not like, what Mike Leach is. It's not an overwhelming personality, but he always drops some soundbite. Yeah. And man,
it's a dry personality.
It was about as dry as the Mojave Desert. It was the boringest press conference I've ever been around for. He talks a little bit about Alabama. It didn't seem like he was in the best mood. It seemed like he just wanted to get the hell out of there, and that's what he did. But you guys can check that out right here on Bama Insider. So I posted that press conference as well. We also have another quarterback, okay? And he got onto the field. Let me bring that up for you guys. And the Big Ten recently started – and you also had another quality quarterback get back onto the field, and that is Justin Fields. Justin Fields came on, and Ohio State at first trailed Nebraska, and you can remove that banner down there, Trey. And it's actually Nebraska was up 7-0. I was watching that game, and I was laughing. I was like, of course. I was like, how it started, and then I was going to tweet like how it ended with Ohio State killing them. It ends up being 52-17. Fields is 20 of 21, 276 yards with 2 touchdowns. Tony, we'll start with you. I mean, Justin Fields is back. Ohio State's back. What you guys think?
He's a Heisman contender. Is he going to play enough games to put up the numbers that Mac and Trevor are putting up? I don't know. I think that's probably like for his Heisman race, I think that might be a detriment, but he's a guy that can do it all. And I think Ohio State, look, if I'm looking at teams that are true contenders for the title, I put Clemson and Alabama up at the top and then maybe Ohio State. And can you guys even think of another team besides those three that you really think could win a national title? I don't know. So when you look at that, I think Justin Fields is going to be a Heisman hopeful just for that reason, is he's on one of the 3 contending teams and he's going to be able to do a lot. Ultimately, I think maybe playing those less games, though, might be the detriment that keeps him away from it.
What do you think, Trey? As you look, I mean, Ohio State clearly loaded, has all the components to, be one of the top teams. But just talking about Justin Fields and what he brings, I mean, he's certainly going to be a guy that is clearly going to be a difference maker and keep Ohio State fighting to the very end. Oh, no, certainly. And I mean, before we even get into that, how nice was it to have the Big Ten back on Saturday? We had SEC football, ACC football, all around the country. We're starting to see games. But with this team, they control their own destiny. Penn State was going to be a threat for them this year. They lost week 1 to Indiana now. So, for Ohio State, I think it's just playing your games. Their schedule's not incredibly tricky by any means. And for Justin Fields, it's just doing what Justin Fields is capable of. I would say he is the Heisman front runner coming into this season.
But like you mentioned, Tony, is he going to have enough time to prove himself? Great numbers on Saturday. Just a fun kid to watch, a fun team to watch. Weird day in the Big Ten, but Ohio State gets out just fine.
Did you think that Indiana did you guys think that was a touchdown?
That's one of the closest plays I've ever seen. I mean, this is Des caught it type stuff. But I'm gonna give it to him. The effort, if nothing else, he got it.
All right. As we continue to talk Monday night quarterback here on BamaInsider.com, you have another quarterback that's about to get onto the field in the NFL. You got Tua Tagovailoa as he gets ready. And we'll switch back to that Heisman hopefuls. We'll go back and we'll talk about Tua and Trevor. I got a whole graphic lined up. I did the stat comparison. But Tua Tagovailoa set to get his first start in the NFL against the Rams, who played more like the Lambs against the 49ers last week. With disrespect to Leonard Little, I'm sure he'd have words. But, Tony, we'll start with you once again. Tua Tagovailoa making his NFL debut against the Rams. What are we watching? What are realistic expectations as Tua is about to get his feet truly wet in his first NFL start?
I have big expectations because I've seen what Tua can do. I mean, I know he's playing for the Dolphins. I know the Dolphins don't, necessarily have all the necessary weapons, and he certainly doesn't have the offense that he had at Alabama. But look what Justin Herbert has done with his rookie start. I think Tua could do something similar. I think he could. I'm certainly hoping he does. I enjoyed covering him here, and look, he's a guy that can do a lot. I'm just anxious to see him back on the field, healthy and really playing a full start, because I just want to see where he's at. But I'm expecting some big things. I mean, look, we've seen enough proof to know that he can sling it, and so I don't see any reason why he can't do that at the next level as well.
And he's going to take this moment so seriously. We saw it when he got into that game, a couple weeks ago, just after the game, getting back on the field, sitting down at the 15-yard line, taking it all in. This is the moment he's been waiting for. After the Mississippi State game last year, there was a short time where it's like, he might not be able to play this game ever again. And if he does, it's going to be a risk every single time he takes the field. He's feeling healthy, looked great in the little action we saw him. And this moment is a long time coming for him. So exciting to see it. I think he's going to be just fine against the Rams. And good defense to test him here in his first true start. So that'll be a lot of fun.
All right. As we continue on Monday Night Quarterback, Trey, you can pop open that banner as Heisman hopefuls, because we're about to talk about Trevor Lawrence versus Mac Jones, okay? And you're probably wondering, okay, well, where are the stats? Don't worry, I got the stats. That's the thumbnail graphic to get you guys here. And here are the stats between the two quarterbacks. Actually, Trey, pop that banner down so we can get the full scoop. Okay, you got Trevor Lawrence on the left. You got Mac Jones on the right. Now, granted, Trevor Lawrence has played one more game compared to Mac Jones, so keep that in mind. And people are going to be like, oh, you should have added this to the graphic. No, you should have added this. Make your own graphic, send it to me, I'll put it up on the screen. All right, this is the graphic that we have to work with, okay? So Trevor Lawrence on the left, 135, 191, 70% passing-wise, 1,800 yards, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, efficiency rating 178.6. Mac Jones on the right, 115, 146, 78%, 1,900 yards, 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, efficiency rating 212.8. What do you guys think? Trey, we'll start with you this time. As we look at these two quarterbacks, I mean, certainly that 17 touchdowns jumps out, but, you're also playing the Citadel and Georgia Tech and Syracuse.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that both these quarterbacks are elite, and they've looked that to this point in the season. But I think, and, this, you could say homer take this, that, whatever, but Mac Jones has just looked unstoppable this year. There's been times, even this past Saturday against Syracuse, where you've seen Trevor Lawrence have a little bit of a difficulty, setting the rhythm for that offense. They have so many tools, so many pieces. And at times I think it's a little bit difficult, because when you have a guy like Travis Etienne as your running back and Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback, that helps because you can set up the pass with the run. But at the same time, you have to worry about spreading the ball around and making sure everybody's taken care of. 17 TDs through 6 games is an unbelievable statistic. Both completion percentages have been insane. Both QBRs have been insane. I think Mac's a little bit higher. But overall yards in the deep ball. I think that's the one highlight for Mac Jones, really, is just the way he's been able to throw it deep. We even saw it without Jaylen Waddle on Saturday. I think that alone, just the heroic throws he's made this year, and he has that big win to this point already. He has the win over a top 3 team in the country. Trevor Lawrence has a top 10 win, over a Miami team that we're still figuring out. But, to this point, I think it would be Max if the season ended right now. Trevor Lawrence hasn't, done anything to lose this award, but I think Mac has done so much that, he's taken it right from his hands. What do you think, Tony?
I think if you did one of these like blind, like QB1 versus QB2, and Trevor Lawrence was QB1 and Mac Jones was QB2, most people would pick Mac Jones. They pick you because especially with the one less game. I know the 17 touchdowns, that's about the only thing that Lawrence has over Jones, right? On this breakdown. And obviously you can get that with Jones would have that if he played the Citadel for his extra game. So, but if you look at the breakdown by numbers, it's one thing. I think the name appeal of Trevor Lawrence is probably giving him the edge right now. And I wonder if if there was a Heisman right now, I still think Trevor Lawrence would win, but I think Mac Jones should win. I mean, the numbers right now, Mac Jones is doing it against better competition. I mean, the fact that he threw for 400 yards against Georgia, that is his Heisman moment, and it probably will end up being his Heisman moment. But like I said, the Heisman is a weird award, and a lot of it's name recognition. And I think right now, still, Trevor Lawrence has that name recognition. I wonder if Alabama's going to start to kind of like, when are they going to really make their play and kind of like push a candidate? You know what I'm saying? Both schools are kind of in a weird situation right now where, you've got Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne and Mac Jones and Najee Harris. And at one point, you usually see it's probably going to be sometime in, late November, but you're going to see these schools kind of make a push for their candidate. I think it's just a matter of who blinks first. I think if both of these guys come at the same rate, then one of them is going to throw a costly interception. We kind of saw Trevor Lawrence take a slight step back this last game. He wasn't as good as he has been. So if somebody really has a stinker, I think that the other guy could really take advantage and kind of run away with the race. But right now they're neck and neck, and if it stays super close, I think it's going to go to Lawrence just because of the name. But you never know. I mean, crazier things have happened, and Mac Jones plays for a name brand in Alabama, and he's making a name for himself as well. So if I had a vote right now, I'd go to Mac Jones, but we'll just have to see.
I think, you bring up a good point, Tony. Is like when you look at kind of everything that a Heisman Trophy is, like, the long flowy hair, the guy who just like is like just looks entirely the part overall from the 6'7" build, what he's done at Clemson. This guy is like everything that the Heisman should be. But I think also, like, when I kind of look at it, I also look at the competition, and what Mac Jones did against Georgia, I think really stands out to me overall, because I think in that game, he did two things. Number one, he proved that he can win a big game. And number two, he proved that he can win a big game against a quality defense. I don't know if Alabama is going to see another defense like that for the rest of the season. Georgia's defense was fantastic. And the way that he came and, throwing for over 400 yards. And we're forgetting about, when we talk about these Heisman hopefuls, we're forgetting about Najee Harris. And he's kind of taking a distance. And I know it's more of a quarterback award. But, the guy has scored 14 touchdowns on the year. He ran for 31 carries against Georgia and had another, 100-yard performance plus, and 3 touchdowns against Tennessee. It's like the campaign for Najee Harris is still pretty solid, but I think it's a quarterback race. And I think in the end, you're also going to have Justin Fields, who we talked about later on, kind of up at the podium with those guys, as both you said. So it'd be tough for running back to jump in there. But, Najee Harris is having just as positive a season as any of these running backs.
This is a tricky game for Mac Jones coming up because Mississippi State has the best pass defense in the SEC. But when you look at Mississippi State, it's not a sexy opponent. So it's a game that I think if Mac Jones does really well, then it should say a lot about his credentials. But at the same time, I think it's a game that could maybe slow him a little bit, at least because Mississippi State's got a decent defense. And, if he doesn't perform that well, I think there'll be people that say, oh, well, look what he did against Mississippi State. And you just can't undervalue. I think Mississippi State's, they're not a great team, but as far as pass defense, they're pretty decent.
All right. Everybody knows that Jaylen Waddle went out in this last game, and now we're kind of switching from quarterback to, other topics around Alabama, and we'll also talk around the SEC as we kind of hit the backstretch of Monday night quarterback. Slade Bolden is a guy that we saw get onto the field, 6 receptions, Bless you, Trey.
Thank you.
And he had 94 yards. Your guys' observations of Slade Bolden. I mean, he came in very effective. Everybody's going to talk about the dropped pass and maybe even about the fumble that he had. But overall, I thought he played the best that he could play. And he's tough to cover on the field. I mean, runs exceptional routes and has good hands. Tony, your takeaway of Slade Bolden.
I like Slade Bolden, and I like him in that slot, that slot role that he'll be taking over for Waddle. I think he's a guy that can, he's not as, dynamic as Waddle per se, but he's a guy that won Louisiana Gatorade Player of the Year his senior year. And, he can play wildcat quarterback. He's going to be the punt returner. He can do a lot of things in open space. And I think the thing that stood out to me today from what I learned was just his connection with Mac Jones. I've written some stories on Mac, and he's a guy that loves to just throw like whenever. Like he'll ring people up at like midnight or 1 or early in the morning, and he's just like, "Hey, who wants to go ball?" And Mac Jones kind of said that Slade's been his guy for that. So you've got to think that they've got that connection, just always throwing a lot, and that might help. He's been compared to I think is either Henry Ruggs or Devontae Smith called him a Julian Edelman, just because his like technical side of the game where he was like always in the right position, makes the right plays, makes those hard to catch, catches over the middle. So I like him as kind of just like a nice option, and maybe defenses will kind of not just take him for granted, considering that there's John Mechie and Devontae Smith on the outside, and he might sneak up on some defenses. I do think you're losing a step with him and Waddle. I don't think he's just going to be a like-for-like replacement, but they're going to make it work. And there's so much around this offense that he can still be a deadly weapon. And I think you're still going to have to somewhat account for him. It's not like he's a hole in the offense.
Yeah, I think you just have to use him the right way. Like you're saying, Tony, this isn't Jaylen Waddle. This is Slade Bolden, and he doesn't bring the same tools that Jaylen Waddle brought to the field. But you can use him and be effective with him. I like Julian Edelman, but I almost thinking maybe Taysom Hill kind of style of player that can just really do it all. He can help you with the special teams. Don't be surprised if you see him get behind center every now and then and take some snaps, to change it up.
The backfield.
Yeah, whatever. And that's what I like the most about Slade Bolden is the diversity in his play. And just reliable hands too. We saw him drop the one ball at the goal line on Saturday, but other than that, he looked great. I think he was, averaging 15, 20 yards a catch on Saturday. So, really steady day to come in after everything that had happened from play number 1 on and, show up for Alabama. I think we'll see a lot of that.
Also, that ball was rocketed to him, man.
It was missile.
Yeah, but the rule is if it hits your hands, you got to catch it. That's why you stay after practice like Devontae Smith and you catch whatever 100 passes or whatever. My take on Slade Bolden, I really like him. I've always thought that he ran great routes, very good hands, and I felt that him stepping up, I thought that's exactly what he was going to do in a situation like that. Now, as we kind of turn the page and figure out like who else could be, a receiver that steps up, Alabama certainly has options. And I think we're going to see plenty of this guy, potentially Javon Baker, a true freshman, got in 2 snaps in this last game. Just compiled the whole offensive breakdown at BamaInsider. And if you took advantage of that $12 promo, you know what I'm talking about. Javon Baker is a guy that I feel is a complete alpha. I continue to show footage of him and what he can do, just because I think he's a guy who can really make an impact as a true freshman. And now is an opportunity for guys to step up. Tony, what's your take on a guy like Javon Baker, maybe a Trayshawn Holden, a Thal Jones-Bell? Alabama has guys. Do you think Javon Baker is that guy, next man up with that mentality to potentially step on the field in the loss of Jaylen Waddle?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think a lot of people have seen that viral clip of him in high school with the one-handed catch falling backwards. He's a guy with a great, catch radius, like Nick Saban said today. I also talked with his trainer. I'm working on a story on him for later on in the week, and he's worked a lot with just his break off the line. He's a really smart receiver, kind of the stuff we were talking about with Slade being a smart receiver, being in the right spot. You're seeing that a lot with Javon as well. Here's some highlights of him just, owning defensive backs. But I think he's a very complete complete receiver. He's got nice size. I asked, who do they kind of compare him to? He said his trainer said it's a little bit of Odell mixed with some Calvin Ridley, and I think Alabama will take that. Ooh. Yeah, but he's definitely a guy I think to watch out for. he's a real humble guy. He's a real guy that like had no problem waiting his turn. I think he might be one catch away from really kind of jumping onto the scene. And another thing, not to give away too much of my feature, but his trainer kind of compared him to Devontae Smith in the terms of maybe he'll be quiet until he's not quiet anymore, and he'll have that big play that kind of sets him out. So I think he's definitely the one to watch of the freshman guys coming out.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the history of the freshman receiver these last few years, we saw Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy come onto the scene, dominate. We saw Jaylen Waddle the next season, John Mechie a year ago. This could be Javon Baker's year to come onto the scene and take over. You think about a guy like Tyrell Shavers right now. I don't want to say he's kicking himself because I'm sure he's very happy with this situation now at Mississippi State. But think about if he had just stuck around, the opportunity he could have here.
Yeah, but we were waiting for that opportunity. He just never got on the field. Now he comes to, Alabama and Tuscaloosa. It's going to be an interesting kind of reunion for those two teams. I always liked what he brought to the table. I have to say I did see him drop a couple passes during practice, but I mean, all these guys drop passes, I think I wanted to tell you guys a quick story about Javon Baker. So I went to go watch him at that Rivals, event. I think that was last year, whenever last year was. 2020 seems like it's been 50 years. So anyways, I went there and Javon Baker kept on jumping up in front of all the other wide receivers to get reps. Like there was a long line of, let's say, like 15 wide receivers just like waiting there. Javon Baker would just go, he would run a route and he'd come back up to the front. And he'd just like push whoever was in front of him and he just kept running routes. So this one defensive back who was kind of like the two alphas like met and they like lined up and they went and Javon, this guy's like jamming Javon and Javon, like they get kind of tangled up. Javon makes this ridiculous catch and then they get up and they just square up to throw blows. Oh my goodness. And they broke him up and stuff. But my point is, he's just like such a, this is the type of guy who like he wants the ball. And I think we're gonna see him. And I mean the comparison of Beckham and Ridley. My goodness, if that's what's to come, then I'm pretty excited. You're watching Monday Night Quarterback on BamaInsider.com. We talked about Tua playing for the Dolphins. We talked about Mac Jones. We talked about Trevor Lawrence. We talked about Justin Fields. We're talking about a variety of topics now as we continue to move through the show. We had a chance to get Nick Saban today, and you can watch that press conference right here on Bama Insider on our YouTube channel. I was looking currently, I wanted to talk about kind of some games around the SEC, and while I look for those particular clips, what do you think about some of the games that took place just recently, Trey, from the SEC as we kind of move into this next week of college football?
I mean, the one game I want to talk about first is going to be the Auburn game this weekend. Some more Auburn voodoo magic. I mean, come on. It seems like it's every week with this team. But, the SEC is continuing to surprise me every week, I'd say, if nothing else. After the first few weeks, it was kind of getting over that LSU is really not good anymore. And, now it's kind of become, wow, Arkansas might be all right. And, Auburn still finds a way to win. We don't know what we have in South Carolina to this point. And I think above it all, we see a team like Texas A&M still emerge as probably the second or third best team in the league that still has a clear path to this playoff. We've talked about it a lot on this show. But that's one storyline I think has been super fun to follow after they played Bama. This team's rolling and, could really find themselves in a good spot here. What do you think, Tony? What's gotten you excited about the
this was kind of a weird week in the SEC because look at this schedule right here. I mean, Alabama's the only good team that played. A&M didn't play. Georgia didn't play. Florida didn't play. Is LSU back?
Seriously, that's a great question.
I don't think so. I think the South Carolina team's not that great. I think it's a little bit of like, first of all, the South Carolina team's not great. LSU is also not just total trash. But I don't think this LSU team is a contender in the SEC at all. Like I said, the only contender that played last week is Alabama.
Yeah. I mean, this league, I think, is going to come down to one game at the end of the year. And it's going to be if Georgia shows up or not. We still got to put a thumb in that Georgia-Florida game because that could go.
Yeah, and who knows, man? Florida's got some talent, too. I wouldn't be surprised if that game, goes the other way, and maybe it's Alabama-Florida in the SEC title game. That wouldn't be, I think I'd still pick Georgia at this point, but I don't necessarily think you can just write that in because I think Florida's got, Florida's got a good team. Look, they lost to A&M, but we're kind of making the argument that A&M might be the second best team in the conference.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this is Florida team that I think is still incredibly talented and a little bit slept on now after the loss. What do you guys think? Let's say, and we didn't want to talk what ifs too often here, but this is a situation I think could really happen. Let's say Georgia makes it to the SEC title game. They beat Florida, play Alabama. They beat Alabama in that game. Alabama has one loss. Georgia has one loss, and Texas A&M loss. Do you think we get 3 SEC schools in though? Maybe does A&M?
No, I don't think you get 3, but I think Georgia and Alabama at that point are in. I think A&M needs Alabama to give Georgia another loss. That's A&M's only ticket.
But see, this is what I'm scared of, like long term, and I've talked about this several times. If you watch my shows or if you've heard me talk before, I'm scared that Oregon somehow wins out whatever schedule that they play, and they end up 7-0, and that Ohio State is undefeated with whatever they're going to play. I think 9 games, and then if Georgia is able to come back and they're able to beat Alabama, and then you have Georgia and you have Alabama both with 1 loss, and then you have Clemson out there who's going to be undefeated. I mean, come on, let's face it. There's no way that Notre Dame beats, Clemson. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is there's going to be 5 teams, and who's going to be left out? Would in that scenario? I mean, is the playoff committee going to really give, the Pac-12 a look? I don't think they should. But if they're 7-0 and they've been, smashing teams out in the Pac-12 and they have a conference championship, who knows? Ohio State, and then you have Alabama, who just lost. Could you imagine if Alabama is somehow left out because of that? Because look at the gauntlet that they played.
Yeah, I mean, and the wins already too. You have a win versus number 3 and a really quality Texas A&M team as well. While we're talking playoff though, there's another team. Cincinnati is 7th in the country. They're undefeated. They don't play anybody the rest of the season. I mean,
you're gonna before we get onto that take. I don't think they're gonna take out a 10-1 Georgia or a 10-1 Alabama. I think both those teams will make it. So if they're both 10-1 at the end of the season with a loss to each other, I think they both make it. I think they'll look at the strength of the Pac-10 and then also the lack of wins. As for Cincinnati, come on, Trey.
Hey man, that's an undefeated team. Perhaps looking good so far. They're already in position. They're at number 7 now. You just need Notre Dame to lose, Oklahoma State to go down. And then, maybe Georgia loses again, and then they're gone. So,
I think maybe they can backdoor their way in. Sure.
This comment on the board says the best. They all suck. Alabama and Clemson and the Natty. And the odds that came out, just they say that. It's a big lean that it's just going to be Alabama and Clemson meeting up. Let me ask you guys about this as we continue to talk about Alabama kind of towards the later half of this schedule. You have Mississippi State, a game that Alabama is favored by 32 points this weekend. All right, 32 points against Mike Leach and company. Then you have a bye week, and then you have LSU, and then you have Auburn, games that are redemption games for Alabama. You have a Kentucky team who is there echo on my side? Sounds like there's an echo.
Yeah, maybe just the background music or something. I'm good on my end.
Okay. Yeah, the background music is just kind of like a new funky fresh feel. I won't keep it all the time, but just for this one, I'm doing it. But it's 32-point favorite, then an improved Kentucky defense, and then I guess Arkansas is the toughest on the schedule. I mean, as we look kind of to the back end of the schedule, what do you got? What are your what's your take on the back end of the schedule? Tony, we'll start with you.
I mean, the toughest 2, let's not get carried away. The toughest 2 are the ones you would think are the toughest 2. It's at LSU and home against Auburn because they've got the most talent. I know that Arkansas is a different team, and I know Kentucky's got a defense, but let's be real here. Like, Alabama's not going to lose to those teams based on the talent. I don't even want to waste too much time talking about Mississippi State either. But, the game against LSU, just because of the talent, I think is interesting. But I think that LSU team has taken a giant step back, like as we said before. And then also, I think Alabama has that game circled. That's going to be such a payback, if you will, game for Alabama. So I don't really see LSU beating Alabama, even though it's in Tiger Stadium. The Auburn game can get tricky if it's close, but they don't usually do it when the game's in Bryant-Denny Stadium. I just really don't see Alabama challenged until the SEC championship game. I don't know about you guys. A lot can happen. More injuries could happen, and that could really change things. But I'm looking at this schedule and I'm not seeing a loss here. And it's not even, I have to look pretty hard to see a loss here. Yeah. So for me, Alabama's going to skate.
Go ahead, Trey. Take it.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a rat poison, if I had to describe it here, Tony.
Sure.
Everybody on this schedule could beat Alabama this year. All of these teams have shown signs of, really advanced play at times. Mississippi State week 1, that offense comes out and their defense comes out. The pass defense, like you were talking about earlier, that game could go either way. I don't think Alabama loses any one of these games. They're going to be a heavy favorite in all of these, just with the way the other schools have played, if nothing else. But there's games on the schedule that could really trip you up, and if nothing else, you got to treat them like last week and avoid any kind of injury, because you know how devastating that can be as the season goes on. And I think we take these games and maybe once you play Kentucky and you get into that second half, it'll be a good opportunity to see guys like Bryce Young continue to get reps, Trey Sanders get in there, some of these younger guys. But I think for the most part, it is so manageable. You got through Georgia, you got through Texas A&M. You're controlling your own destiny. You're looking downhill now, but you can't overlook any game. You have to take them all seriously, and thankfully a program like this does that regardless of the name on the jersey. So I think they're going to be all right. What do you think, Kyle?
I'll keep it short. Alabama is going to smoke all these teams, and we'll see them in the SEC championship. Moving on, I wanted to talk about the cumulative stats. I'm a huge stats guy, and I wanted to kind of go. Can everyone see the stats on the screen? I think you guys can. Yeah. Okay. So run through the stats real quick. And then I wanted to pipe in some Nick Saban real quick. He's talking about the pass rush. Yeah. And then I want to talk about the pass rush. Najee Harris, we talked about him a little bit earlier. So he has 595 yards overall, 14 touchdowns on the season. Pretty incredible through 5 games, right? Brian Robinson, we've seen an improved play, I think, from him. He has 203 yards with 2 touchdowns. You have Mac Jones. We're talking quarterbacks. Well, there his numbers are. And we've talked about him tonight earlier on, 1,900 yards with 12 touchdowns. And then receiving-wise, Tony had a great article, last Friday on Devontae Smith. I mean, 45 receptions through 5 games. It's just remarkable, right? Goodness. 556 yards, averaging per game. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Devontae had 7 catches for 76 yards, and we just kind of were like, okay,
It's crazy what he does, right? You're like, oh, he only had 7 receptions. Jaylen Waddle finished at least, the regular season, 25 receptions, 557 yards with 4 touchdowns. Look at him and Devontae both averaging the exact number per game. And then welcome to the show, John Mechie. Look what he's done. Look how he stepped up. He was an 8A MVP, not too recently ago. And now 21 receptions, 499 yards, 99 yards per game. Najee Harris has 14 receptions, 147 yards. Loves to, catch the ball out of the backfield. Does a great job. Defensively, let's get down to
while you get there to defensively, Mechie leads the nation in yards per catch among players with I think it's 15 receptions. So if you take out the guys that really haven't had receptions, just 1 catch for 45 yards, you don't count those guys. The real receivers, he's leading the nation with 23 points. What is it? 76 yards per reception. Yeah,
that's crazy because Jaylen Waddle was, before he went out, was I think at like 22 himself.
22.28 for Jaylen Waddle as well. So he was up there. It helps when Mac Jones is there slinging deep balls, but those receivers are doing a lot. John Mechie is like the deep ball king, though. I mean, it just seems like every single touchdown he gets is just like, and they're open deep balls. He just somehow beats the cornerback, and Mac Jones just like the one against Georgia was simple. The one against A&M was simple, and it's just he's making it look way too easy for a sophomore.
Bama Hammer's like, you guys are talking rat poison.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's all rat poison for sure. Cumulative stats right here, and we're talking about just the defense overall. You have Dylan Moses. He has 43 total tackles, and then after that you have Christian Harris. So your 2 inside linebackers leading the team. Both those guys, what do they have in common, Trey? Where are they from? 3. Two.
Dylan Moses and Christian Harris.
Where are they from?
Baton Rouge guys?
There you go. You got it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Jordan Battle, he has 28 tackles on the year. And then you have Daniel Wright with 27, DeMarco Helms with 22. So then your safeties next. And then what about the play of Malachi Moore? Tony, what have you thought about Malachi Moore this season? I mean, Malachi is certainly playing at an extremely high level for a freshman.
Really high level for a freshman, probably in contention, probably one of the best freshmen in the conference, maybe in the nation, actually. But he was a little inconsistent early on in the season. Now he seems like he's figuring it out, and he's just a big play guy. You saw him with the strip and score against Tennessee, and made an interception against Georgia. It just seems like he's in the right spot at the right time a lot of the time. He also had that big breakup on that long ball. I think it was in the second quarter or something. If you guys remember, there was a deep ball Tennessee, and he broke that up as well. So he had a great game. And it's hard to play the star position as a freshman. So add that to his accolades too, is just playing that position. He gets tested a lot, and he's done super well. And I couldn't be more impressed with him.
Yeah, Malachi Moore certainly bringing it. Someone said today, I don't know if you guys agree with this take, but someone on the message boards on BamaInsider was like, I'm really getting like a Minkah Fitzpatrick vibe off Malachi Moore's play. I was like, he plays super opportunistic. I know it's early to start comparing anyone to Minkah Fitzpatrick, but I mean, he's super opportunistic, and 2 interceptions, and then he had that forced, which he took to the house. So Malachi Moore all over the place, also good in coverage, like Tony said. So Malachi Moore, one of the top freshmen at Alabama.
And Minkah was the last freshman to start at star, so so I mean that comparison is there. Wow. They play the same position. They're guys that could probably play safety as well. I think later on, if Alabama needs Malachi to switch to another position, whether it be corner or safety, I think he's going to be one of these versatile guys that can do that. So I think someone just said Malachi equals baby Minkah. So probably
Okay, I'm gonna pipe in Saban. You guys let me know if you guys can't hear it. You guys should be able to hear it, but I wanted to play a couple sound bites from Saban's presser today. Then we're going to talk about what we think he really meant kind of behind that, and then I think we'll be pretty close to wrapping it up on Monday Night Quarterback. So the first part I'm going to get to, I'll have to search for it.
Raise your hand function, and
is there any echo questions in the comment box? Can everyone hear this okay? Sound off, give me a thumb box. Thumbs up.
Really good game for our team. I think a lot of players really had to step up in this game, and they did a very, very good job of overcoming. They definitely need how many sacks. You're not going to get a lot of pass rush with 4 guys you get.
How you would evaluate your pass rush in the first 5 games?
Well, I think you guys probably look at pass rush as to how many sacks you get. I don't think we've had really good pass rush, but I also think that, when people 7-man protect, which is what they did a lot in the last game, you're not going to get a lot of pass rush with 4 guys rushing. I think sometimes it's relative to who you're playing against. I definitely think this is an area that we need to improve, and certainly an area that we're going to work hard on because it's going to be important in this game.
All right, let me ask you a question, okay? And this is to everybody, and of course, you guys, here with me. But when you look at Alabama's interior defensive linemen, or just defensive linemen overall, okay, who are the pass rushers? Okay, I know, and let's say besides Christian Barmore, so on the roster, when you look at it, who are Alabama's really pass rushers, guys that can get after the quarterback? I really want to know who else you guys think besides Christian Barmore could be that guy.
Maybe Justin Aboigbe, I think gets some mentions, and him and Christian Barmore going back and forth a little bit here has limited his play. But he could be a guy that really needs to step up. Love what we've seen out of Will Anderson getting off the end so far this season. But as a whole, this unit has just not looked good. There hasn't been much pressure. We saw it in the second half against Georgia. They looked awesome. I mean, night and day from what we've seen the rest of the year. And, they forced Stetson Bennett to make errors there. But, specifically, there's a lot of guys that need to step up, and not just on the line, this defense in general, but up front, just got to get more aggressive. What do you think, Tony? What's one guy that really needs to turn it on here?
They don't really have it. Today, Saban talked about Byron Young as somebody that kind of lost some weight and has been looking pretty good. And he's a guy that had, I think, 4 stops and a tackle for a loss against Tennessee. That's a guy maybe to watch. You mentioned Justin Aboigbe. He's been a starter. Christian Barmore is probably to answer Kyle's question, really the only true pass rushing threat among defensive linemen, not edge rushers, but just defensive linemen. But yeah, Alabama needs something from there. It's lacking. And I know that sacks don't tell the whole story, but they're also not really providing too much of a pass rush. Now, Saban, did say that it's circumstantial if they're going to, guard against, if they're going to, maybe not test the secondary or, leave more people to protect, then you're not going to get those sacks. And if it's working, then that's just the way you got to roll with it. But I think in most cases, and I think when you start playing a team with a really good quarterback, maybe you get to the playoffs, you play a Trevor Lawrence, a Justin Fields, I think you're going to have to affect the quarterback. And if you can't do that, those guys are going to carve up the defense. And we've seen what can happen. I mean, Alabama's defense is getting better, but they're still susceptible. And if they can't get pressure against those kind of guys, good night, because it's going to get ugly on defense. Now, there's some time to figure it out. And we've mentioned some guys that, I truly think can make a difference. Maybe, you look at some of the guys inside too. Maybe can a Tim Smith, mix things up? He's the guy that's been getting some action. And I think it's going to help getting LeBron Ray back when he does come back from the elbow injury. So there's a lot of things, in flux right now, and I think it's not all is lost for Alabama's pass rush by any means, but things aren't looking great. And if you're looking at an area that Alabama certainly needs to shape up, that's probably high on the list, I would say.
All right, let's continue with Saban's press conference.
Go to Brett Hudson with Tuscaloosa News.
Coach, Slade was a very versatile athlete coming out of high school.
Okay, we already talked about Slade.
Years with him. Seen Mac's ability to handle adversity. How's that evolved over?
We already talked about
we can
Mac
do
Jones.
the things that he can do, that they're capable of doing, and the passing.
Cecil Hurt.
Coach, we haven't had a chance to talk to you since Saturday, and I was just curious if you had the opportunity to talk to Jaylen and what he said to you and what the doctors have said to you.
Well, I did talk to him after the game. They did the surgery that night. He's been in the hospital since. He's been pretty groggy. He was going to come and see me today, but he just got back, and I'm probably going to talk to him later today or tomorrow. But the surgery was very, very successful. The long-term prognosis for his surgery is very good. Derrick Henry had this surgery here. Kenyon Drake had this surgery here. It's a difficult timetable to know when a guy can come back from something like this. So that's something that's going to be ongoing, but probably 6 to 8 weeks before, he can really even start, real heavy rehab. Then, relative to your position, how fast can you come back after that is really, really up in the air.
All right, so they're listening to Nick Saban talking about Jaylen Waddle. I mean, Tony, just from listening to him and from the injury report, you would be completely shocked if Jaylen Waddle comes back, right? Like, basically, he's not coming back this season, right? Is that what you're taking away?
Yeah, I would be shocked. I said in the article that I wrote today that he left the door open because he kind of did. I mean, look, let's do the math here. 8 weeks. That's the SEC championship game on the 19th of December. But that's not 8 weeks and Jaylen Waddle's back. That's 8 weeks and he can, really start hard rehabbing. And I don't know what that, I don't know what that entails and how quickly he can come back after that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how that works. I mean, I think in an optimistic, let's just be totally optimistic, put the crimson glasses on here. Let's say it takes him 6 weeks to get to that point. Then you've got, 2 weeks. 6 weeks is the Arkansas game, I believe. So maybe, he has a month to get ready for the playoff. And at that point, is that enough time to get ready for the playoff? But I don't know. I think you're cutting it pretty thin there. And then do you really want to rush Jaylen Waddle back and maybe risk his NFL career? It could happen. And I think that, like I said, Nick Saban left the door open a little bit for it to happen, but I wouldn't hold your breath. I don't expect Jaylen Waddle to come back this season. And honestly, as unfortunate as it is, covering this team and getting to watch him play, I don't really expect him to come back at all for Alabama because I think he's a first-round draft pick.
Okay, as we get towards the end of the show, I know people are bummed out about Jaylen Waddle, but we're going to end on a very, very positive note. Okay, very positive. All right, 3, 2, 1. How about this young man? My goodness, I know everybody likes that. Thumbs up for Will Reichard and the play that he's had this year. Tony, I know you've been waiting for a field goal kicker, a PAT guy like this for a long time. Your thoughts on Will Reichard as he's completely dazzled in this first half of the season?
Oh, he's been great. He's been automatic. It's almost like I feel like Alabama fans probably have to pinch themselves at this point because he's just making, against Tennessee, he made the 2 easy field goals. But those are the field goals that I think the Alabama fans really wanted him to see. The 52-yarders, they're bonus. They wanted someone that could hit that 39-yarder that should be automatic. And, with Will Reichard, it kind of is automatic, at least so far. And he's been what you expect the kicker, probably more. So Alabama, you talk to any person in Alabama, they're extremely confident. He seems like a very confident kid himself, and looks like Alabama has a kicker.
Trey,
I mean, this guy 0 to 100 at this position for Alabama in the offseason. 6 for 6 on field goals. The huge kick against Georgia that I think is one of the biggest, if not the biggest play in that game to just swing the momentum, everything else. He's looked automatic. I mean, this is truly a dream at this point. And something that they had addressed so much. We heard Nick Saban say at post game this past weekend, the kickoff unit has taken such a step back, but the field goal unit is here. And, I think any coach in the country would rather have that than the kickoffs, right?
I mean, it's just amazing to see, what a quality kicker can do to lift the spirits of everybody. Because Will Reichard comes in 6 for 6, and I think he had a big part in that game against Georgia, just like someone said here in the comment box. I mean, you go in before half hitting that 52-yarder. They went in with a ton of momentum, and overall 6 for 6. And then 32 of 32 on PATs. And now we can tweet those scores out before they actually, hit the PAT. Because before you're like, is he going to make the PAT or not? And now he's doing that. So, all right, everyone. Well, thank you very much. We started with quarterbacks and we ended with kickers. That's how we do it on Monday Night Quarterback on Bama Insider. Please hit the thumbs up button, like, and subscribe. And remember, catch this available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We really appreciate you guys joining us and helping us get to 40,000 subscribers. But that's not the end goal. The end goal is as far as we can take this YouTube channel, and we'll continue to deliver tons of Alabama Crimson Tide football coverage on the daily right here on Bama Insider on our YouTube channel, but also back at Bama Insider. If you're curious about getting a free 30 days, go to BamaInsider.com. The free 30-day promo code is simply Roll Tide. It's almost Nick Saban's birthday. So,
let's do something special.
Yeah, we got to do something special for Nick Saban. He's getting closer. So usually we usually do something on YouTube for Nick Saban, who will have another birthday here on the October 31st. Who else is born on Halloween? That's how the GOAT rolls. All right, for Trey Anity, Tony Sokol, Kyle Henderson, this is the Bama Insider Monday Night Quarterback. Thank you very much for watching, and we appreciate you guys finding us on Apple Podcasts and coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Until next time, we'll catch you soon. Thanks for watching.